This is the third talk about the calm and quiet mind, looking from different angle. One of the talks I mentioned that things would reveal by itself from, as if from the subconscious or unconsciousness. When we have let go, the mind that is taking so much time and energy in our brain. For that, we do nothing. That's one point. And that's not a habit. We are sort of used to, by education and habit and maybe the order from the top management or president or from the environment. We focus on something, but usually when something doesn't happen, then you have to revisit because you are too confined in just the same pattern of things, like hammer and nail syndrome. You only have hammer, so you keep using the hammer, so you hit the same way without thinking much. But it may work at sometimes, but we need to know that quite often, actually, we need to have more relaxed feel. And creativity is connected to having fun, or like a children's mind. And in Zen, they call it beginner's mind. It's open-mindedness, emptiness, no mind, nothing. And if you know that state, you can easily get in there. But depending on the habit developed, you may be more obsessive to do certain things because it may have worked in the past. So, depending on each person's situation and what they face, and also probably by the age, the approach may be different, but at least one thing to know is that no mind, nothingness, calm and quiet mind can reveal lots of psychosomatic problems, the mind initiated problem without accessing the unknowns. In Buddhism, they talk about the area consciousness, the deep down consciousness, kind of like subconsciousness. And in there, as much as artificial intelligence, they talk about the deep learning. The same thing, the synthesis of different segment of neurons may start to bridge with each other given the opportunity of you being at the no mind state, called confined mind. As I talk, we're not using that mind as much because we are going with the logic accumulated from all the experiences and discuss that. But in daily life, my suggestion is to be familiar with the calm and quiet mind. And this talk is about different dimensions that exist in a more detailed manner. And I use the expression of what Krishnamurti, one of those spiritual leaders, mentioned about the observer and observed. I wasn't quite sure about this, and for probably 10, 15 years, he said something like observer and observed is one, or something of that nature. And who is that observer, and what is that, or who is that observed? I mentioned separately that often we look at the situation, what we are facing, and think like, I was so stupid, I didn't think about what I was doing. So when you say that, the initial I and the separate I, for example, I didn't know, and what I was doing, so those two I's are in a way different. You are looking almost from the higher perspective to reflect the small I that was doing something, but not thinking outside the box, so to speak. So how can we get out of the box, instead of after the fact, but as we live our life? That would make our life easier, and the time for suffering and confusion and difficulty may be much reduced with at ease. Because this word at ease is very interesting because it's about the liberated mind. The mind is confined, but we can liberate by having a calm and quiet mind. So let's look into the structure that I talked about this I and mini I. Or if I use my mini company idea, I mentioned in my books and elsewhere in the video too, the company has company, and within the company have department, or the unit, and so on and so forth. So each of the department may be considered as mini company, or the unit may be considered as mini company. So everybody's got the mini company in his area of responsibility that he is reporting to the banker, maybe CEO, maybe department manager, maybe unit manager. And each of you would have the customer and suppliers surrounding you, or the bankers and the employees, going back and forth the communication, understanding what's going on in the customers, or the suppliers, or the bankers and the people. You have to orchestrate activities so that you make the most of what you can to address the customer's concern. There may be a bunch of customers, so you need to kind of figure out the priorities, and that makes the story a little bit complex, but you can do it because everybody can run the house budget, most likely, and buy food and allocate time and energy for fun, and then stock some or to save some money for the future. So as much as each person would be running as the president of his household, the mini company is the same concept at the company organization. Everybody's got the mini company. And I'm suggesting, and I mentioned in the other video, that this can be structured in such a way, and if everybody is running the mini company, it becomes more decentralized way of management, instead of the top management telling what to do and the people waiting for the top management saying and say that something like, just tell me what to do. That's not empowering, and that is the problem with the organization, and I see that's the problem of the city and state and the nation and possibly the world, and not just in the private organization, but the public organization and any organization. Even the hobby clubs and so forth may be constructed as mini company because each of those organizations have the mission, the customer, suppliers, bankers, employees, and you have to figure out how to orchestrate and allocate the resources so that they achieve certain key performance indicators by coming up with a plan and go through PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act, or check, act, plan, do, CAPD cycle. So back to this observer and observed. Why don't we think the I and mini I? I am the observer to look at the mini I, what I have done wrong, and then being able to see from the higher perspective, so to speak, and reflect and get the point across, what to be done next. So individually we do that. But what I'm saying is that this structure is interesting, that I and mini I, and if you look inside of the mini I, there's mini I and mini I's inside of you, because it's a neuron structure. So it's kind of like a hierarchy, but more complex. But for making the story easy, it's just a little bit of a hierarchical structure of the higher level to a lower level. And each is like a mini company. And so the structure itself is basically the same. It's just a networked neuron connection. And if you open up the brain and study and how things are connected, you'll find that is the case. So back to the calm and quiet mind. Actually, before that, one point to mention is Arthur Kessler mentioned about the Holon structure, which basically says a part is a whole by itself, and the whole is a part of the bigger whole, or something like that. So Holon structure is a mini company, and that applies to any being, living being, because they are to achieve something for each of the elements. In the case of individuals, there's a lung and heart and all the kidneys and all that. They are each kind of running its own mini company, so to speak, and they have the customer-supply relationship. And without your thinking, they make things happen because they know what to do. It's programmed. We don't know it because it's in unconsciousness, But that's the structure. And if we can bring out the possibility from all the mini company or mini me within ourselves, you don't have to think so much. When you get stuck, therefore, you may reach out to the mini me's, how they are doing. You don't know it because it's subconscious or unconsciousness. But basically, having a calm and quiet mind, you let them explore whatever they can. Why? Because it's biological issue that happens in living being. If you think back, or if you study research of how the living being appeared on Earth from the tiny cells and so forth, and over time evolved to the plant and the animals and the human beings and so forth. And in human being, we developed this frontal lobe and all the new structure of the brain. So we are one of the, the advanced stage of those evolution. So we can live longer and do lots of things, but also we can do lots of harm to the environment because we are a little bit stupid. So, but that's okay. That's a PDCA process. You make a mistake, learn the lesson, and move forward. So we have to do this individually and then collectively as the person, organization, the nation, and a whole. So if you think like this whole structure is applied to individuals and the group and the human, as much as also in the living beings of the plant and animals and so forth. Looking at this way, don't you think it's a wonderful structure? And we are just one of them. So we're struggling, figuring out, but in essence, every living cell is struggling. Struggling is not the right word. But I'm pointing that the life is basically a struggle to figure out what to do next. And we want to be wise doing it. So the point of calm and quiet mind, just briefly, to summarize the whole topic, is to let the accumulated intelligence and knowledge and stored information, as well as living cells out there or inside of us, to prevail to a degree so that they can come up with let's say, the dream and ideas. That's why when we sleep, the dream pop up. And when you come up with an idea, your half dream state, if it's a wonderful idea, you may be perhaps like not thinking. Maybe you're in the toilet, or you're about to sleep, or you are on the train or car mindlessly, or maybe on surfboard. Actually, surfboard is a good example that if you think too much, you cannot do surfboard. You have to utilize all the subconscious part of who you are. That is to be trained and accumulated knowledge, intelligence, so that you can quickly address the issue. That's why the exercise of repeating the principle of PDCA and understanding this point of the calm and quiet mind and being able to do that often is important. Maybe at your age and the situation, you don't feel a need to do it, but I guarantee you that there will be places that you need that, especially when you get older, as much as I'm at 72, you have to figure out. And I think that older people tend to be wise. That's one of the saying. I don't know if that's true or not, but I tend to believe that could be the case because as you are starting to be confined, you cannot allow the wasteful thought to be part of you. So they need to be wise because the things are getting fragile and you have to orchestrate the whole structure much more vividly. But before getting old, and it's still okay to get old and do that because it's kind of fun, but if you can do early on in your life, wouldn't it be better? Someone said part of the Zen is like you face death and get to the state. And if you learn from that state, you can go backward to benefit from that state so that you don't get there, or you try to do the best so that basically you die already to live again. You face the death, you are the calm and quiet mind. That's the ideal situation because nothing you can do at the end of life. Some of the mini companies breaking down, the connection is lost and it fades away. So gradually the organ fails and we pass away. That's the reality of it biologically. And it just happens so far as you can be quiet and calm and observe. That's what you can. That's how the life was developed and went all this time. And you just observe and hopefully have a smile when you die. I cannot guarantee that could be the case, but I tend to think if you are doing your best using your brain, but also listen to your heart and subconscious part of who you are and activate all to live, I think that's the way we are meant to live. I hope you get some idea and practice the calm and quiet mind. Why don't we do it just last 10 seconds? Okay, calm, quiet, body is supple, breathing is easy, muscle is relaxed. Have a good day. Bye.